It is now day 28 of Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine, and Ukrainian forces continue their fight against Russian troops. But will cyber warfare be the next challenge in this Eastern European conflict? Joining us now to discuss, Vice President, General Counsel for NetChoice, as well as a professor of Internet Law at the George Mason Antonin Scalia Law School, Carl Szabo. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on today. Let's start in Russia, where the Kremlin is now trying to create a great firewall to prevent information from even getting to its citizens. Vice News saying this: Russia's digital Iron Curtain is starting to take shape. We know that's in reference to shutting down access to social media companies like Facebook and Instagram. How does this impact the state of the war?
Over his border at China and sees the work that China has done to completely isolate its population from any outside information. And Putin's jealous. He wants to create his own great firewall and prevent all forms of communication to his people and make sure that only the state-run media is the only source of news coming in and out. Now, there is some upside and some good news, though. As we have seen for the past 50 years, America is the leader on promoting democracy and free speech, and technology is no different. So you've seen Elon Musk deploy his Starlink satellite technology to get communication to people who don't otherwise have it. You see Twitter just announcing yesterday that they're switching over to the Tor network, which is kind of a dark web type system, which is much harder for people like Vladimir Putin to block information coming into his country. Because one of the main things and one of the most important things that the people of Russia need today is to see the atrocities being committed by their government against the Ukrainian people, the type of information that you don't see on state-run media.
Right. And we have seen protesters, anti-war protesters coming out in Moscow and, of course, risking arrest, quite frankly, because it's illegal to protest against the government in Russia there. Alexei Navalny also recently sentenced to 9 more years in prison. A side note there, but that's what happens when you speak out against the Kremlin. You mentioned Elon Musk and his role in sort of the Ukrainian efforts to keep communication lines open, the Starlink satellite internet kits. How long might that take to actually get into operation here? What significance will that play?
You know, one of the wonderful things about the United States is we believe, for the most part, especially under President Trump, the idea of permissionless innovation, which allows technology and innovators to deploy, and we are there when the time is needed. So Elon Musk, for many years, has now been sending up satellites into orbit to provide internet access. And from day one, he'd been engaging to make sure that the people of Ukraine have kits, computers, devices that can access internet-based satellite networks so that Vladimir Putin can't just cut the cables, because you can't block satellites nearly as easily as you can cut internet cords. So sure. Elon Musk has been providing the people of Ukraine with devices and technology to keep those lines of communication open. And one of the wonderful things about social media is we are able to see the atrocities being committed against Ukrainian people in real time. No sugarcoating, no government deciding what we can and cannot see. Right. We see the good and the bad simultaneously. Exactly.
So true. We see all those refugee sites where Ukrainians are welcomed with open arms, but then we also see the evils of war, as you point out. Let's take it to the home front here. President Biden had said earlier this week that the U.S. should be prepared for Russia to launch cyber attacks, perhaps even against American companies as well. Have signs pointed that could be the case?
You know, just the other day, the FBI has warned that Russian cyber attacks have begun probing U.S. energy companies and U.S. financial systems in greater efforts than we'd seen previously. And what that means is they're testing, they're pushing, they're trying to see where we are weak so that as soon as the time is right, they can expose us. Now, remember, it's not too long ago that we had the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack, which shut down core oil production and transmission here in the U.S. and sent prices, well, we thought they were high then, but relatively high. Russia is looking to do something similar today. Now, one of the other things is we heard President Biden talk about how he's been working his administration from day one on a private-public partnership to protect the country. And unfortunately, that just doesn't match reality. We've seen the exact opposite efforts coming out of the administration to continuously attack and undermine American businesses. And one of the things is we've given away our energy independence, and we cannot risk giving away our technological independence, especially at a time like this.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Professor Carl Szabo joining us this morning. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.